Okay, I do have a kind of a Moscow minute.
All right.
Okay, and I'm going to lead into this through Trump, but I'm going to segue into something else. So,
All
I
right.
don't know if you heard, Trump came out recently and said that basically admitted that he was going to manipulate the post office to kind of suppress um, vote by mail ballots, right? He basically said, I'm not going to pay for overtime. And the post
Oh,
office
yes,
has
yes,
said that,
yes. That
this
way
is
up.
going to create problems because especially in cities, or places that have a lot of people, happen to be people of tend to be Democratic or whatever, people of color or whatever, they're going to have a harder time getting those ballots processed in time, to count. Now, Trump just appointed a new Postmaster General
Hmm.
who
Yes.
is I forget his first name, Dejoy, which I think is a great name. But anyways, he's a big fundraiser for he was a big fundraiser for Bush and for other Republicans, but a big Trump fundraiser. And so Trump appointed him to this position, which pays like $400,000 a year.
So
Um,
draining the swamp.
Draining the
Right.
swamp, right,
Right.
right. His
Right.
friend who's going to who's talking about, efficiency and everything, and he's cutting overtime just right before, you have the elections, right? Well, I did a little research on this guy, and it turns out he's married to this woman.
Yeah.
So
Aldona
he is married
Swos.
to this Aldana Was or Vos. She's
Ross.
a
Okay.
Polish American physician who happens to be the vice chairman of the Victims of Communism Memorial Foundation. Okay, now the Victims of Communism Memorial Foundation is a nonprofit anti-communist organization authorized by a unanimous act of Congress in 1993, I assume under President Bill Clinton, for the purpose of educating Americans about the ideology, history, and legacy of communism. Okay, and they have said certain things such as they're a pretty extreme group. For instance, in April 2020, the organization announced they will be adding the global victims of COVID-19 to the death toll of communism, blaming the Chinese government for the outbreak and every death caused by COVID-19. So they're seeing every death of COVID-19 as caused by uh,
Wow.
communism. I
Wow.
thought that
That's
was
bizarre.
that
That
was
is bizarre.
interesting. Um, and
Oh, and one of the I don't know if you saw one of the founders is Mika Brzezinski's dad.
Right, a Cold Warrior, right?
The guy that said something to the effect that eventually the media will be able to tell people what to think.
But I thought it's interesting that okay, here's the guy. The guy she's married to the guy who runs the post office, which is trying to suppress voting, and she is supposedly in this organization that's fighting against communism because communism is anti-democratic and stops, people from voting, things like that, right? So it just seems like a kind of a contradiction um, that you know.
But it
Uh,
almost seems like it's apropos for Trump, though, because he does this with every single appointment that he has. It's always the person that should not be in
Yeah,
charge
yeah.
of these departments, that's who he puts in charge.
well, and then this anti-communism foundation is one of their top researchers is Adrian Zenz, this German guy, Zenz, who's been on Democracy Now, who's a born again Christian who believes that, who's basically an anti Semitic German, who believes in the rapture and everything. And he's the one who's the senior advisor for this anti communist foundation about the Chinese treatment of the Uyghurs. Okay, so I thought that was interesting.
Hmm.
So he's a born again Christian. He feels he is led by God in his mission. And so the whole campaign, which is a bipartisan campaign against China about the Chinese treatment of Uyghurs. And I'm not saying Chinese don't mistreat Uyghurs. I'm just saying that they are depending for their information primarily on this guy who believes, who's a born again Christian who's an anti-Semitic German who believes in the rapture. They're depending on this guy for their source of information on Chinese treatment of Uyghurs. So I just thought politics makes for strange bedfellows, and I think it's like, they will come up with their ultimate goal, and then they will use whatever means they have to achieve that goal. So if the anti-communist organization and this right-wing, guy help them achieve their goal of world hegemony, then they will use that. And the truth be damned, it doesn't really matter what the truth is. But I just thought there's a connection here between Trump's post office appointee and this anti-communist organization. So that's my really almost going into conspiracy territory there, but that's my Moscow Minute for today.
Oh,
So do you think Adelson is somewhere in this, or?
I mean, I didn't see his name come up on this, but he fits into the big picture, no question, right?
Well, because you have to wonder where it is that, I'm sure that these people are donors to Trump, like that is where he can maybe find some of these people that are in his cabinet. But other than that, I would suppose that it has to be people that are in the circles of the people that he has as donors, right? Because that's the whole point, is that these donors, they have access to Trump, and that they're able to put people in that are able to bring about whatever sort of changes or whatever sort of legislation or, whatever it is that they're looking to bring about, right?
Right. Well, I mean, he's getting someone who's going to directly help him in his efforts to be reelected, right? But he's also connected to this, the deep state, or whatever, for lack of a better term, that's basically been Democratic and Republican for decades. I mean, that's fighting this, this battle for U.S. hegemony around the world, this war machine. So yeah, and I actually just heard that Trump got into a fight with Adelson on the phone, or he basically insulted.
It was about money. It was because Adelson has only given him, I think, like $600,000 this campaign, and he gave him like $10 million last time.
Right.
Oh, interesting.
And
okay.
Adelson kind of bit his tongue and didn't say anything, but I think Trump was like, Trump's, obviously not a very tactful guy. Just insulted Adelson when he was on the phone with him. Couldn't you cough up more money? Like, what's your problem?
Holy cow.
But we know this about Trump already, that he's like.
Yeah, no, I know. It's nothing new, but it's like the stuff they go after. It's like with the impeachment, the stuff they go after on Trump is like not really the stuff they should go after. They go after Russiagate or whatever, but they don't go after.
It's because they can't go after him for emoluments or whatever, because they're also guilty of it.
So that's the whole thing. It's like that they're both. And that's why the Trump supporters still support him, because they feel like the Democrats, or the Republicans for that matter, the mainstream Republicans, are no worse really, because we're all part of that system. So as far as Trump can be seen as against that deep state, well, they're going to support him. I know QAnon, QAnon people who support this theory that Trump's the fight is the vehicle, for and evangelical Christians too think somehow he's the vehicle against this. I don't know. So
is that what QAnon is about? I didn't know QAnon was all about that they're like the evangelical Christian.
No, I'm just saying that both groups they support Trump. No, the QAnon people are they think it's all this child trafficking thing, and Trump's fighting against that somehow, right? I don't know. I mean, it's insane.
So it's curious, would they have thought that that was his reason from the beginning to enter the race, rather than what a lot of people think, that the Clintons thought he'd be really easy to beat, so Bill Clinton gave him a call, and he thought, hey, I can get some publicity for this network I want to launch anyway. So, and then he just rolled with it, and Clinton was so bad that he happened to actually be a viable candidate.
I think he was just trying to enhance his brand. That's why he ran. He didn't expect to win. But I think the people who supported him expected him to win, or they hoped he would win, and they figured he was going to fight against this corrupt, swamp in Washington. And Trump ran on that because he's being the carnival barker that he is. He knew that resonated with people, so he ran on that theme.
Exactly.
And it worked. It worked.
Just
he didn't expect it to. But everybody,
where
everybody
he thought there was an opportunity to
right.
get some people interested in his candidacy.
I
Basically,
mean, I don't think he particularly likes being president because he actually has to, like, he's in the spotlight all the time, and you know, he actually has to perform, and he doesn't like having to do that. You know, but that's where he is.
He's not hiding in the basement though.
Right.
And he's had like